Have you ever had that moment when a single act of cruelty opens your eyes to years of abuse? That morning in my Portland kitchen changed everything. The scalding eggs sliding down my face weren't just breakfast. They were my wake-up call. I remember every detail of that morning. The rain tapping against our Forest Heights kitchen window, the smell of freshly brewed coffee, and the way the morning light cast shadows across our granite countertops. My husband Nathan stood there, in his crisp business suit, his perfectly styled hair and clean-shaven face masking the monster beneath. I never imagined saying no to his sister Sophia's latest emergency would end with hot food burning my skin. Looking back now, from the safety of my new life, I can finally share what happened that day. But first, let me take you back to where it all began, just a few hours before everything changed forever. The morning started like any other in our modern suburban home. I was preparing breakfast, trying to ignore the tension that had been building since last night's phone call. Sophia, Nathan's younger sister, had called crying about another financial crisis. This time, she needed $5,000 for what she claimed was an urgent medical procedure. But I knew better. I'd seen her Instagram stories from Las Vegas, just hours before. I stood at the kitchen island, carefully plating the eggs Benedict I'd made, Nathan's favorite breakfast. The hollandaise sauce had turned out perfect, just the right consistency. I'd learned early in our marriage that keeping Nathan happy meant perfection in everything, from the temperature of his coffee to the timing of his meals. The sound of his footsteps coming down our hardwood stairs made my heart race. Not from love or excitement, but from anxiety. I knew what was coming. We hadn't discussed Sophia's call last night. Nathan had stormed off to his home office instead. But now, in the harsh light of morning, there would be no avoiding it. "Good morning," Nathan said, his voice carrying that false cheerfulness that always preceded his worst moments. He adjusted his blue silk tie, the one I'd given him for our 5th anniversary, and sat down at our breakfast bar. "The food looks good today." I placed his plate in front of him, noting how his eyes followed my movements, like a predator tracking its prey. "Thank you," I replied softly, pouring his coffee exactly the way he liked it. 1 cream, no sugar. "So," he began, cutting into his eggs with precise movements, "I spoke with Sophia again this morning. Early. Call. Before her procedure." He paused, watching my reaction. "She was crying, Olivia. My baby sister was crying because she's scared about this procedure, and you're the only thing standing between her and getting the help she needs." I gripped my coffee mug tighter, steeling myself for what I knew I had to say. "Nathan, I saw her Instagram stories last night. She's in Las Vegas at the Bellagio. There is no medical procedure." The change in his expression was instant. The polite mask slipped, revealing the anger underneath. "Are you calling my sister a liar?" His voice had that dangerous edge to it, the one I'd learned to fear over our 7 years of marriage. "I'm saying we need to look at the facts," I continued, my voice trembling slightly. "This is the 3rd emergency this month. Last week it was car repairs, but she posted about buying a new designer bag. The week before that..." "Enough!" Nathan's fist came down on the counter, making the plates rattle. "You've never understood family loyalty. Just because you grew up without siblings doesn't mean you get to judge our relationship. Sophia needs this money, and you're going to transfer it to her today." I took a deep breath, feeling something shift inside me. Maybe it was the years of watching our savings dwindle to fund Sophia's lifestyle. Maybe it was the memory of postponing my own dreams, the small bookstore I'd always wanted to open because we could never seem to save enough. Or maybe I was just finally tired of being the villain in their family drama. "No," I said quietly, but firmly. "I won't transfer the money." Time seemed to slow down. I watched as Nathan's face contorted with rage. He stood up slowly, picking up his plate of perfectly prepared eggs Benedict. Our eyes met, and in that moment, I saw something I'd never seen before: pure hatred. "You won't?" he asked, his voice eerily calm. Then, without warning, he flung the entire plate at me. Hot food and ceramic exploded against my face and chest. The scalding hollandaise sauce burned my skin. Eggs and broken plate fragments scattered across the kitchen floor. I stood there, frozen in shock, feeling the hot sauce drip down my neck, seeping into my silk blouse, the blue one I'd bought just last week. Nathan's voice seemed to come from far away. "Clean yourself up. When I get home tonight, I expect that money to be in Sophia's account. Or you can pack your bags and get out." The front door slammed behind him as he left for work, leaving me standing in our perfect kitchen, surrounded by the ruins of breakfast and my marriage. As I reached for a kitchen towel to wipe my face, my hands shaking, I caught my reflection in the window, food dripping down my face, tears mixing with hollandaise sauce, and something else, a spark in my eyes I hadn't seen in years. That's when I knew. This wasn't just about breakfast, or money, or even Sophia. This was about me finding the strength to say no, to stand up for myself, to choose my own safety and sanity over someone else's demands. Little did Nathan know, I would take him up on his ultimatum, but not in the way he expected. If you want to know what happened next, how I turned this moment of humiliation into my liberation, make sure to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. In my next video, I'll share how a chance encounter at a local coffee shop changed everything and the unexpected ally who helped me plan my escape. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video if it resonated with you. Your story matters, and together, we can help others find their strength too. The scalding sensation on my skin jolted me into action. As I stood in our pristine master bathroom, gently dabbing at the angry red marks blooming across my neck and chest, reality hit me like a tidal wave. I caught my reflection in the oversized mirror. My silk blouse ruined, bits of egg still clinging to my hair, and tears streaming down my face. But it wasn't my disheveled appearance that caught my attention. It was the look in my eyes. 7 years of submission had dulled them, but now they blazed with something new: determination. My hands trembled as I unbuttoned my ruined blouse. The skin underneath was red and beginning to blister. I needed ice, maybe even medical attention, but the thought of explaining this at an emergency room made my stomach churn. How many times had I covered for Nathan's outbursts? The accidental bruise from when he grabbed my arm too hard, the clumsy fall that resulted in a sprained wrist, the stress headaches that kept me from family gatherings when my face showed. Too much evidence of his temper. The house felt eerily quiet now, the only sound the steady drip of the bathroom faucet and my own shaky breathing. I could still smell the hollandaise sauce. That perfect breakfast I'd prepared turned into a weapon. Sophia would be waiting for that money transfer, probably sitting in her luxury hotel room in Vegas, planning her next shopping spree. The thought of her entitlement, her constant demands, made something snap inside me. I walked to our bedroom, my bare feet silent on the plush carpet Nathan had insisted on installing last year. "Only the best for our home," he'd said, though "our" always seemed to mean his. Opening my closet, I pushed past the designer clothes he'd chosen for me, reaching for the old duffel bag hidden in the back. I'd bought it secretly 3 months ago, during one of my carefully timed grocery shopping trips. Even then, some part of me must have known this day would come. The bag already contained some essentials: a few changes of clothes, basic toiletries, copies of important documents I'd slowly gathered over weeks of careful planning. My hands moved automatically, adding more items: the family photo album from before my parents passed away, my mother's silver locket, the journal I'd kept hidden between the mattress and box spring. I hesitated at my wedding ring, still sitting in its dish on the dresser where I'd placed it before making breakfast. 7 years of memories, promises, and lies contained in that simple band of gold. I left it there. Moving to Nathan's home, office felt like entering enemy territory. My heart pounded as I typed in his password. Sophia's birthday, of course. The irony wasn't lost on me. I needed evidence of the financial abuse, the constant drain of our joint accounts to fund his sister's lifestyle. My hands shook as I photographed bank statements, transferred files to my secure email, and documented everything I could think of that might matter later. A text message alert made me jump. Sophia. Nate says you're being difficult about my medical procedure. I need that transfer by noon. Then another, don't make me tell him about your secret meetings at Morning Brew. My blood ran cold. She'd seen me meeting with Julia, the owner of Chapter and Verse bookstore, about potentially buying into the business. I'd been saving secretly for years, squirreling away small amounts from our grocery budget, dreaming of having something of my own. Now Sophia was using it as leverage, another tool of control. I thought about responding, explaining, defending myself. Instead, I blocked her number. The kitchen was still a disaster zone. Broken ceramic, congealed eggs, and sauce splattered across the floor and cabinets.
Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story.
I should clean it. Years of conditioning screamed at me to erase the evidence, maintain the perfect facade. But as I stood there, something else caught my eye. My reflection in the chrome refrigerator door. Behind the food stains and tears, I saw my mother's face. I remembered her last words to me in the hospital. Live boldly, Olivia. Don't let fear write your story. I'd failed her. I'd let fear rule my life for 7 years. Let Nathan and Sophia diminish me piece by piece until I barely recognized myself. But not anymore. Moving quickly now, I gathered my emergency cash from its hiding place behind the loose baseboard in the laundry room. 2 years of saved grocery money and cash back from purchases. Nearly $4,000. Not enough to start a new life, but enough to start over. The burn on my chest throbbed, a constant reminder of what was at stake. I needed a safe place to think, to plan. My phone felt heavy in my hand as I scrolled through contacts. Years of isolation had left me with few options. Most of my friends had drifted away, put off by Nathan's controlling behavior or my constant excuses for missing gatherings. Then I saw it. Megan Rodriguez. My best friend from college, the one who'd never given up on me despite my gradual withdrawal from her life. She'd sent me a Christmas card every year, always with the same message. I'm here when you need me. I'd hidden them all in my journal, little lifelines I was too afraid to grab. My finger hovered over her number. What would I say? How do you reach out after years of silence? How do you admit that your perfect life is a carefully constructed lie? A car door slammed somewhere outside, and I nearly dropped the phone in panic. It wasn't Nathan. He wouldn't be home for hours. But the fear that shot through me made the decision clear. I couldn't stay here. Each minute in this house was another opportunity for Nathan to come back, to find me before I found my courage. I pressed call. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. Each ring felt like an eternity. What if she didn't answer? What if she'd finally given up on me? Olivia? Megan's voice was exactly as I remembered, warm and full of concern. Is everything okay? The sound of her voice, so kind, so familiar, broke something loose inside me. No, I whispered, my voice cracking. No, it's not okay. I need help, Meg. I need to get out. There was no hesitation, no judgment in her response. Where are you? I'm coming to get you. Relief flooded through me, followed immediately by panic. He could come back. He sometimes comes home for lunch to check on me. Listen to me, Megan cut in, her voice firm but gentle. Pack what you need. I'm leaving now. I'll be there in 20 minutes. We'll figure everything else out later, okay? I nodded, then realized she couldn't see me. Okay. Stay on the phone with me while you pack, she instructed. Tell me, what happened? As I moved through the house, gathering last-minute items, I told her everything. The years of financial control, the isolation, Sophia's endless demands, and finally, this morning's violence. Megan listened, occasionally murmuring words of support or asking clarifying questions. I could hear her car running, the sound of traffic in the background. Almost there, she said as I zipped up my bag. Is your car in the garage? Yes, but he tracks it. There's a GPS. Leave it. You're coming with me. I took one last look around the house that had been my prison for 7 years. The perfect furniture chosen to impress Nathan's colleagues. The photos on the walls showing a smiling couple that never really existed. The spotless surfaces that had cost me countless hours of anxiety-driven cleaning. My eyes fell on the breakfast. Mess still covering the kitchen floor. Let him come home to find it, I thought. Let him see the evidence of what he'd done, what he'd driven me to do. I heard Megan's car pull into the driveway. This was it. No more hiding, no more pretending. I shouldered my bag, pulled my emergency cash from its hiding place, and walked to the front door. My hand shook as I reached for the handle. Behind me, the grandfather clock Nathan had inherited from his parents chimed 11 times. In another hour, Sophia would be expecting her money. In 4 hours, Nathan would return expecting to find me cowed and compliant, the money transferred, the kitchen spotless, dinner preparing. Instead, he would find an empty house, a ruined kitchen, and his perfectly controlled world beginning to crumble. I opened the door. Megan was already out of her car, moving quickly up the front walk. 7 years melted away as she pulled me into a fierce hug, careful of my visible injuries. You're safe now, she whispered. I've got you. As we drove away, I didn't look back at the house. I didn't need to. Everything that mattered was in my duffel bag or in my heart. The rest, the designer clothes, the perfect furniture, the facade of a happy marriage, could burn for all I cared. My phone buzzed. Nathan, checking in as he always did mid-morning. I expect this childish behavior to be resolved by the time I get home. Don't disappoint me, Olivia. With trembling fingers, I typed my response. I'm disappointed in myself for not leaving sooner. Then I turned off my phone. Where are we going? I asked Megan, realizing I hadn't even thought. To ask. My house first, she said, navigating through Portland's late morning traffic. You need medical attention for those burns, and we need to document everything. Then we're calling my cousin David. He's a lawyer who specializes in domestic abuse cases. I felt a mix of relief and terror. This was really happening. I was really leaving. He's going to be so angry, I whispered, more to myself than to Megan. Good, Megan replied, her voice hard. Let him be angry. You're not his punching bag anymore, Liv. You're not alone in this. As we drove through familiar streets that suddenly looked different, brighter, fuller of possibility, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Hope. The burn on my chest still throbbed. The scars of this morning's violence would take time to heal. But for the first time, in 7 years I was choosing myself. Nathan had given me an ultimatum. Transfer the money or get out. He never expected me to choose freedom. I touched the tender skin on my neck, feeling the raised welts where the hot food had struck. Every mark was a reminder, not just of his cruelty, but of my strength. I had survived. I had escaped. And I was never going back. Make sure to like this video and share it because you never know who might need to hear this message today. Together, we can help break the silence around domestic abuse. Megan's Craftsman house in Selwood felt worlds away from my modernist prison in Forest Heights. The weathered wind chimes on her front porch danced in the afternoon breeze. Their gentle melody so different from the sterile silence I'd grown accustomed to. Inside, her home burst with life. Children's artwork on the fridge, a basket of unfolded laundry on the couch, coffee cups in the sink. It was beautifully, perfectly imperfect. "The kids are at school," Megan explained, leading me to her guest. "Bathroom. Marcus is at work, but he'll pick them up later." She rummaged through her medicine cabinet, pulling out first aid supplies. "Let's take care of those burns first." As she gently cleaned the angry red marks on my skin, I caught my reflection in her bathroom mirror. The woman staring back at me looked simultaneously familiar and foreign. My carefully highlighted hair, maintained exactly how Nathan preferred. It was now matted with dried egg. My expensive makeup had streaked down my face, revealing the constellation of faint freckles I'd spent years hiding because they made me look unprofessional, according to Nathan. "Tell me what you're thinking," Megan said softly, applying burn cream to my neck. The question caught me off guard. Nathan never asked what I was thinking. He told me what to think, how to feel, how to act. The simple act of being asked my opinion unleashed something inside me. "I can't remember the last time someone asked me that," I whispered, tears welling up again. "I can't remember the last time I even knew what I was thinking. It's like I've been sleeping for 7 years and I just woke up." Megan's hands stilled for a moment. "When did it start? The control, I mean. Looking back now, can you see it?" The question sent my mind spinning back through years of memories, each one taking on new meaning in the harsh light of reality. "The first time was so subtle," I said, the memories flooding back. 3 months after our wedding, I'd just gotten a promotion at the library. Remember how excited I was?" Megan nodded, resuming her gentle care of my burns. "Nathan took me out to celebrate, bought me this beautiful leather briefcase, said I deserved to look the part of a successful woman." I laughed bitterly. A week later, he suggested I scale back my hours, said we could afford it, that I deserved to have more time for myself, for us. It sounded so loving, so caring. I didn't see how he was slowly cutting away my independence. The memories kept coming, faster now, like a dam breaking. Then it was the clothes, the hair, the makeup, always under the guise of helping me be my best self. But his best version of me kept getting smaller, quieter, more controlled. I touched the tender skin on my chest, wincing. Sophia came into the picture about a year in. Her first emergency was a maxed-out credit card. Nathan insisted we help. Family first, always family first. I agreed because that's what good wives do, right? Support their husband's family? Megan's eyes met mine in the mirror. "Is that what you really believed, or what he made you believe?" The question hit me like a physical blow. How many of my beliefs were actually mine? How many were Nathan's, carefully planted and nurtured until I couldn't tell the difference? "I used to dream of owning a bookstore," I said suddenly, remembering my younger self. "Did you know I've been secretly saving for it? Little bits here and there, hidden in a cleaning supplies box in the laundry room. Nathan would never look. There. He thinks cleaning supplies appear by magic." A small smile tugged at Megan's lips. "That sounds like the Olivia I remember. The one who read Pride and Prejudice so many times in college that her copy fell apart. The one who organized that underground library in our dorm basement." "She feels so far away," I whispered. "Like a character in one of my books, rather than a real person." "She's not gone," Megan said firmly, finishing with the bandages. "She's right here, making the bravest decision of her life." I stood up, really looking at myself in the mirror. Beyond the burns, beyond the smeared makeup and ruined clothes, I saw something else. A spark of that college girl who dreamed of surrounding herself with books, who believed in happy endings but knew the best stories had difficult middle chapters. "I need to write this down," I said suddenly. "All of it. Every manipulation, every control tactic, every time he made me doubt myself. Every penny Sophia extracted from us with her fake emergencies." Megan disappeared and returned with a notebook and pen. "Start at the beginning," she said. "Write everything you can remember." For the next 3 hours, I wrote. My hand cramped. Tears blurred my vision, but I couldn't stop. I documented the progression of Nathan's control: financial, emotional, physical. The way he isolated me from friends and family. The constant demands from Sophia that drained our accounts and my spirit. The subtle threats wrapped in concern. "I worry about you driving so far to visit your friends. Are you sure you want to wear that to the company party? People might get the wrong idea about us." As I wrote, patterns emerged. Nathan's rage wasn't unpredictable. It was calculated. It came whenever I showed signs of independence, whenever I questioned Sophia's demands, whenever I failed to play my assigned role of the perfect submissive wife. My phone remained off, but I knew what was happening. Nathan would have discovered I wasn't home by now. Sophia would be furious about her missing money. They would be calling, texting, probably contacting everyone they knew trying to find me. "They'll try to make me come back," I said, looking up from my pages of notes. "They'll say I'm being dramatic, that I'm misunderstanding everything, that it was just breakfast, just a moment of frustration." "That's why we're documenting everything," Megan replied. She held up her phone, showing me photos she'd taken of my burns. "That's why we're calling David. Your story matters, Olivia. Every detail matters." A text notification popped up on her phone. Marcus checking in. The sight of their simple, loving exchange made my heart ache. Not with jealousy, but with the realization of what a healthy relationship looked like. Marcus didn't track Megan's movements. He didn't control her finances or criticize her parenting or demand she cut off contact with her family. "I think," I said slowly, the reality of my situation crystallizing, "I think I've been living in an abusive marriage." Saying the words out loud felt both terrifying and liberating. Megan reached out and squeezed my hand, but didn't speak. She knew I needed to process this myself. "Nathan never hit me before today," I continued. I always told myself it wasn't abuse because he never hit me. But the control, the isolation, the constant criticism wrapped in concern, that was abuse too, wasn't it? "Yes," Megan said simply. "It was." And Sophia, she wasn't just a spoiled sister-in-law. She was part of the abuse. Her constant emergencies, her demands, the way she'd report back to Nathan if I didn't respond quickly enough to her needs. They worked together to keep me trapped. Each realization felt like removing a brick from the wall of lies I'd built around myself. The wall that had kept me prisoner for 7 years, that had convinced me I deserved the treatment I received, that had made me believe I couldn't survive without Nathan. "I need to call my bank," I said suddenly. "Change my passwords. Close our joint accounts before they can drain them. I need to—" "Breathe," Megan interrupted gently. "We'll do all of that. But first, you need to eat something. When's the last time you had a meal that wasn't centered around Nathan's preferences?" I had to think about it. Even this morning's elaborate breakfast had been carefully crafted to Nathan's tastes. I can't remember. Well, I make a mean grilled cheese sandwich. With tomato soup from a can because I'm fancy like that. Megan's casual tone, so different from Nathan's constant formality, made me smile. "And while we eat, we can make a list of everything we need to do. One step at a time, okay?" As we moved to her sunny kitchen, I felt lighter. The burns still throbbed, reminding me of the morning's violence, but they also reminded me of my strength. I had survived. I had escaped. And now, surrounded by the warmth of true friendship and the smell of melting cheese, I was beginning to remember who I was before Nathan. The woman who loved books more than designer labels, who preferred cozy cafes to expensive restaurants, who had dreams and opinions and wasn't afraid to voice them. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was awakening. Like and share this video because somewhere out there, someone needs to hear that their story matters, that they deserve better, that it's never too late to reclaim their life. The sound of children's laughter filtered through the open windows of Megan's kitchen. School had just let out, and the neighborhood kids were walking home in groups, their carefree voices a stark contrast to the tension in my chest. I sat at her worn oak table, staring at my phone. After 3 hours of being turned off, powering it back on felt like defusing a bomb. The screen lit up with a cascade of notifications. 47 missed calls, 93 text messages, 32 voicemails. My hands trembled as I sorted through them. Nathan's messages started professionally angry. "This behavior is unacceptable, Olivia." They progressed to threatening. "You're making a huge mistake." Then desperate. "Baby, please, we can work this out. I'll get help. Just come home." Sophia's were worse. "How dare you abandon my brother? You ungrateful bitch. I'm calling the police to report you missing." The last one made my blood run cold. "I always knew you were stealing money. Nathan will be interested to know about your secret savings." "We need to move fast," Megan said, reading over my shoulder. She pulled out her laptop. "Let's start with the banking. Everything else can wait." My fingers flew across the keyboard, accessing accounts I hadn't dared look at in months. The joint checking account was already empty. Nathan had withdrawn everything. But he didn't know about my personal account at a different bank, the one I'd opened in secret using my maiden name. "Look at this pattern," I said, showing Megan the joint account history. Every time Sophia had an emergency, there was a matching charge at Nordstrom or Saks or airline tickets to Vegas. She wasn't just manipulating us. She was flat out lying. "Document everything," Megan reminded me. "Screenshot it all before Nathan tries to lock you out." For the next hour, we worked methodically. I downloaded statements, transferred what money I could salvage, changed passwords, and documented every fraudulent request from Sophia. The more I dug, the clearer the picture became. This wasn't just financial abuse, it was calculated exploitation. A new text from Nathan made my phone buzz. "I just spoke with the police. They're treating this as a domestic dispute. Come home now, and we can sort this out privately." "He's bluffing," Megan said firmly. "But we should call the police ourselves. File a report about this morning. Those burns need to be officially documented." The thought of talking to strangers about what happened made my throat tight. What if they don't believe me? What if they take his side? Then we keep pushing until someone listens. David will be here in an hour. He'll know how to handle this. The doorbell rang, making me jump. Megan checked her security camera and relaxed. "It's just Marcus with the kids. Are you okay with them seeing you? We can have them go to their rooms." I touched the bandages on my neck. "No, let them. Come in. I need to see what normal family life looks like right now." 8-year-old Lucas burst in first, backpack bouncing. He stopped short when he saw me, his eyes wide. "Aunt Olivia, are you hurt?" Before I could respond, 5-year-old Emma launched herself at me for a hug. Megan started to intercept her, worried about my burns, but I shook my head. The little girl's embrace, pure and unconditional, brought fresh tears to my eyes. Marcus hung back, his face showing controlled anger when he saw my injuries. "The security system is armed," he said to Megan. "I'll work from home the rest of the day just in case." Just in case. Because my husband might come looking for me. Because the man who had vowed to love and protect me was now someone we needed protection from. Emma tugged at my sleeve. "Want to see my new stuffed unicorn? Her name is Sparkles, and she has magic healing powers." "Emma," Megan started, but I cut her off. "I'd love to see Sparkles," I said, letting the little girl pull me toward her room. Sometimes magic healing powers came in the form of a child's innocent love. Emma's room was a riot of color and creativity. Crayon drawings covered the walls, dress-up clothes spilled from an old trunk, and books were stacked everywhere. No perfectly coordinated designer furniture, no strict color schemes, just pure, unfiltered joy. "Sparkles lives here with all her friends," Emma explained, showing me a bed crowded with stuffed animals. "You can borrow her until you feel better." I hugged the worn unicorn to my chest, breathing in the simple comfort it offered. "Thank you, sweetie. That's very kind. Mommy says you're staying with us for a while because you're sad. When I'm sad, Mommy makes hot chocolate with extra marshmallows. Should we ask her to make some?" The innocent suggestion broke something open inside me. Here was love without conditions, comfort without manipulation, care without cost. A knock at the door made us both look up. Megan stood there with a serious expression. "David's here, Liv. Ready to talk to him?" I squeezed Sparkles one last time before handing her back to Emma. "Keep her safe for me, okay?" In Megan's home office, David Thompson looked nothing like I expected a lawyer to look. No power suit, no intimidating briefcase, just a man in casual clothes with kind eyes and a notebook. "Tell me everything," he said. "Start with this morning and work backward. Don't leave anything out, no matter how small it seems." So I told him about the breakfast, the burns, the years of financial control, about Sophia's fake emergencies and Nathan's escalating anger, about the slow erosion of my independence and identity. David took notes, occasionally asking clarifying questions. When I finished, he looked up with a determined expression. "We need to file for an emergency protective order right now," he said. "Those burns are felony domestic assault, and based on what you've told me about the financial control and isolation, we can build a strong case for prolonged domestic abuse. Nathan will fight it," I warned. "He has connections, money, influence." "Let him fight," David replied. "Every action he takes will just prove our point. Now let's talk strategy. First, we document everything. The burns, the bank records, the threatening texts. Then we file police reports, multiple reports, at different precincts if necessary. We keep pushing until someone takes action." My phone buzzed again. "Nathan, my lawyer will be contacting you. Don't make this uglier than it needs to be." I showed the message to David, who nodded grimly. "He's trying to scare you back into compliance. Classic abuser tactic. From now on, don't respond to anything from him or Sophia. All communication goes through me." "What about the house?" I asked. "All my things are there. My documents, my mother's jewelry." "We'll get them," David assured me. "With a police escort, once we have the protective order. For now, focus on staying safe and documenting everything." A commotion downstairs made us all tense. Then we heard Marcus's voice. "Package delivery, just FedEx. You'll need to be vigilant, David warned. Abusers often escalate when they lose control, but you're doing the right thing, Olivia. You're taking back your power." Power. The word echoed in my mind. When had I last felt powerful? Before Nathan. Before the slow stripping away of my autonomy. Before I became a puppet dancing to his and Sophia's strings. "I want to press charges," I said suddenly, surprising myself with my conviction. "Not just get a protective order, I want him held accountable." David smiled. "That's exactly what we're going to do. But first, let's focus on immediate safety. I'm going to file for an emergency hearing this afternoon. Can you tell me about any previous incidents of physical aggression?" As I recounted years of accidents and misunderstandings, each incident took on new meaning. The playful shove that sent me into a wall. The concerned grip on my arm that left bruises. The frustrated punch to the wall beside my head. "You're not alone in this," David said when I finished. "What Nathan and Sophia did to you, the physical abuse, the financial exploitation, the emotional manipulation, it's all documented. It's all provable. And it's all going to stop." "He'll say I'm lying," I whispered. "He'll say I'm unstable, that I'm making things up for attention." "Let him," David replied. "Every lie he tells, every threat he makes, every attempt to control you now just strengthens our case. You hold the power now, Olivia, and we're going to make sure you keep it. Like and share if you believe everyone deserves to live free from abuse. Your support could help someone find their courage to leave." Evening settled over Portland, painting the sky in shades of lavender and gold. I sat in Megan's garden, watching Emma tend to her small patch of wildflowers while Marcus grilled. Dinner nearby. The normalcy of the scene made my heart ache, not with envy, but with the realization of how abnormal my own life had become. The police report had been filed, photos taken, statements recorded. Officer Chen had been particularly thorough, her eyes hardening when she saw the burns. "These patterns are consistent with intentional assault," she'd noted, carefully photographing each mark. "The distribution and severity indicate deliberate force." My phone lay silent now, blocked, numbers piling up like fallen leaves. Nathan had started calling from different phones, his office, his colleagues, even his mother's number. Each one blocked, each desperate attempt at contact documented by David for the restraining order. "The pasta salad is ready," Lucas announced, carrying a bowl out to the patio table. He'd insisted on making it himself, proudly showing me how he'd chopped the vegetables into careful, even pieces. No demands for perfection, just a child's genuine desire to help. "It looks delicious," I said, meaning it. After years of elaborate meals designed to meet Nathan's exacting standards, there was something profoundly moving about a simple pasta salad made with love. The garden gate creaked, and Julia from Chapter and Verse appeared, carrying a canvas, bag full of books. My heart lifted at the sight of her, another piece of my past self emerging from the shadows. "I brought some comfort reading," she said, setting the bag down. "And some news about the bookstore partnership we discussed last week." Last week felt like another lifetime. I'd met Julia secretly at Morning Brew, discussing the possibility of buying into her bookstore. She'd been looking for a partner, someone to help expand the business and eventually take over when she retired. It had seemed like an impossible dream then. "Nathan's going to freeze all our accounts," I said, the reality of my situation hitting me again. "I won't be able to—" "Stop right there," Julia interrupted, pulling out a folder. "First, the money you already gave me as a down payment is safe. I deposited it in a separate business account the day you handed it to me. Second, I've spoken with my lawyer. Given the circumstances, we can restructure the payment plan." Megan appeared with a tray of lemonade, her timing perfect as always. "See? The universe provides. You just have to be brave enough to accept the help." As we gathered around the patio table, Julia, Megan, Marcus, the kids, I felt something shift inside me. This was what support looked like. Not the suffocating control Nathan called love, not the manipulative demands Sophia called family loyalty, but genuine care without strings attached. "I got another call from Portland General," Julia mentioned casually, serving herself some pasta. "Salad. They're still interested in hosting regular reading events at the store. Their pediatric ward especially liked the idea of author visits." The mention of the hospital sparked a memory. Nathan always said local partnerships were a waste of time, that they weren't profitable enough to be worth the effort. Nathan, Marcus said quietly, was wrong about a lot of things. Emma, oblivious to the undercurrent of adult conversation, proudly showed Julia her wildflower garden. "The bees love the purple ones best," she explained seriously. "And bees are important because they make the world grow." Very true, Julia agreed. Sometimes the smallest creatures make the biggest difference. Like me, I thought. I'd felt so small, so insignificant in Nathan's world. But here, surrounded by friends who felt more like family, I was beginning to grow again. The sound of a car door slamming in the street made us all tense. Marcus moved protectively closer to the kids, but it was just a neighbor arriving home. Still, the moment of fear reminded me of our new reality. The security system is armed, Marcus assured everyone, and Officer Chen said they've increased patrols in the neighborhood. Julia squeezed my hand. You're not alone in this. The whole community at Chapter and Verse is behind you. Mrs. Henderson from the Mystery Book Club already volunteered to be a character witness if needed. She said she always noticed how you flinched when Nathan came to pick you up from events. Remembered Mrs. Henderson, 82 years old, sharp as a tack, and apparently more observant than I'd realized. How many others had seen what I couldn't? How many had noticed the signs I'd worked so hard to hide? I should call my old colleagues at the library, I said suddenly. Nathan made me quit, but Mary, my former supervisor, she kept trying to stay in touch. I always made excuses. One step at a time, Megan advised. But yes, rebuild those connections. Every person who witnessed Nathan's behavior is another voice to support your story. As if on cue, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Sophia again using one of her friend's phones. Mom's crying because of what you're doing to this family. How can you be so selfish? Julia read the message over my shoulder and snorted. Emotional manipulation, classic. Forward it to David and block this number too. I used to fall for that every time, I admitted. The guilt trips, the accusations of selfishness. I spent so much energy trying to prove I was a good wife, a good sister-in-law. You know what's really selfish? Marcus interjected, his voice firm but gentle. Demanding someone set themselves on fire to keep others warm. Emma looked up from her flowers, confused. But that would hurt. Why would anyone want someone to be on fire? Her innocent question brought unexpected tears to my eyes. Out of the mouths of babes? Why had I accepted behavior that even a 5-year-old could recognize as wrong? Sometimes, I explained carefully, people can hurt us without fire. They can hurt us with words, or by making us feel small, or by telling us we're not good enough. Emma considered this seriously. Like when Tommy at school said my drawing was stupid and made me cry? Exactly like that, sweetheart. But you remember what we talked about? Megan prompted. That Tommy was wrong, and my drawing was beautiful, and he was just being mean because he was sad about something else. That's right, I said, the parallel striking me. Nathan's cruelty, Sophia's manipulation, how much of it stemmed from their own insecurities, their need to control others to feel powerful. The evening air grew cooler, and Marcus started gathering plates. Inside, through the kitchen window, I could see Lucas setting up the guest room for me, carefully arranging extra pillows on the bed. Such a small gesture, but it spoke volumes about the environment Megan and Marcus had created for their children. One of empathy, consideration, and genuine care for others. I want to do something, I announced suddenly. Not just for myself, but for others. There must be more women out there, trapped like I was, thinking they're alone. Julia's eyes lit up. The bookstore could host support group meetings after hours, create a safe space for people to share their stories, find resources. And we could partner with local domestic violence organizations, Megan added. Build a network of support. As they brainstormed ideas, I felt a surge of purpose. My own healing journey was just beginning. But maybe my story could help others find their way out of similar situations. Maybe my pain could become a beacon of hope. The patio lights came on automatically as darkness fell, creating a warm circle of light around our little group. Emma had fallen asleep in her mother's lap. Lucas was showing Marcus his homework, and Julia was making notes about potential bookstore initiatives. This was what healing looked like. Not a dramatic single moment, but a gradual rebuilding, surrounded by people who believed in you. My phone buzzed one final time. David confirming our court date for the restraining order. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new battles to fight. But tonight, in this garden filled with wildflowers and friendship, I was exactly where I needed to be. Remember to like and share this video. Your support helps spread awareness about domestic abuse and lets others know they're not alone. Dawn crept through the guest room window, painting shadows on unfamiliar walls. I'd barely slept, my body still attuned to Nathan's schedule, up at 5 to prepare his breakfast, lay out his clothes, check the morning news for conversation topics he'd approve of. But here, in the gentle quiet of Megan's home, I could simply breathe. The burns on my chest had faded from angry red to a tender pink, but phantom sensations of hot food striking my skin still jolted me awake. Each time the sound of wind chimes from Megan's porch would ground me back to reality. I wasn't in that pristine kitchen anymore. I wasn't Nathan's perfectly curated wife. A soft knock at the door pulled me from my thoughts. "Aunt Olivia?" Lucas whispered. "Mom says breakfast is optional, but I made cinnamon toast. Want some?" Optional. Such a simple word, yet it brought tears to my eyes. When was the last time any meal had been optional in my life? Nathan controlled every aspect of our diet, claiming it was for our health while using food as another tool of control. "I'd love some," I replied, wrapping myself in the quilted robe Megan had lent me. It was nothing like the silk designer robes Nathan insisted on, but its worn softness felt like a hug. The kitchen was alive with morning chaos. Emma sat at the counter, somehow managing to get more syrup on her face than her pancakes. Marcus rushed through with his tie askew, grabbing coffee for his morning meeting. Megan packed lunchboxes while simultaneously helping Lucas with last-minute homework questions. "Sleep okay?" Megan asked, sliding a mug of coffee my way. No precision-timed brewing, no specific temperature requirements, just hot coffee and genuine concern. "Better than expected," I said, accepting the perfectly imperfect cinnamon toast Lucas proudly presented. "What time is the court hearing?" 10. David called earlier. He's meeting us there. The temporary restraining order should be straightforward given the photographic evidence and police report. My phone, silent all night thanks to blocked numbers, suddenly chimed. A new email from an address I didn't recognize, but the subject line made my heart race. "Your mother would be ashamed." Nathan's mother? Of course he'd enlisted her help. I opened the email with trembling fingers. "Olivia, I've always considered you a daughter. Your behavior is not only destroying my son, but disgracing your parents' memory. They raised you better than this. Nathan tells me you've been stealing money, hiding things from him. This isn't the woman they would have wanted you to become." The words hit their target with surgical precision. My parents, gone 6 years now, had always taught me the importance of family, of working through difficulties. Would they understand why I left? Would they be ashamed of me? "Don't," Megan said firmly, reading my expression. "Don't let them use your parents against you. Your mother and father loved you. They would want you safe." Emma appeared at my side, her face still sticky with syrup. "Why are you crying? Did you hurt your owies again?" I wiped my eyes, managing a smile. "No, sweetie. Sometimes grown-ups cry when they're remembering people they miss. Like when I miss Grandpa Joe. Mommy says it's okay to be sad sometimes, but we have to remember the happy things too. Out of the mouths of babes." I thought about my parents, not the idealized versions Nathan's mother invoked, but the real people who raised me. My mother, who taught me to stand up for myself. My father, who always said true love uplifts, never diminishes. "You're right," I told Emma. We should remember the happy things. The morning progressed in a blur of activity. Marcus left for work, the kids for school. Megan helped me choose an outfit for court. Nothing like the designer suits Nathan required, but a simple dress that made me feel both professional and true to myself. As we prepared to leave, another email arrived. Sophia this time. Found? Your secret bookstore plans. Nathan knows everything. Hope your little dream was worth destroying our family. My hands shook as I showed Megan. The partnership agreement with Julia. It was in my hidden email account. They must have figured out my password. Forward it to David, Megan instructed. This is just more evidence of their pattern of control and intimidation. They're desperate, Olivia. They're losing their power over you, and they know it. The drive to the courthouse felt surreal. Portland's familiar streets looked different somehow, as if my changed perspective had altered the very landscape. We passed Morning Brew, where I'd secretly met with Julia to discuss the bookstore. The library where I'd worked before Nathan convinced me to quit. The park where he'd proposed, promising to give me the world while systematically taking away my piece of it. I keep thinking about what Nathan said that morning, I admitted as we waited in the courthouse lobby. About me not understanding family loyalty because I don't have siblings. He used that against me so many times, made me feel guilty for questioning Sophia's demands because I couldn't understand sibling relationships. That's manipulation, pure and simple, David said, appearing beside us with his briefcase. They used your lack of siblings as a weapon, just like they used your parents' memory. Classic abuser tactics: isolate, manipulate, control. More emails arrived as we waited. Nathan's colleagues expressing their concern about my mental state. His sister's friends calling me ungrateful, unstable, attention-seeking. Each message forwarded to David, each attack adding to our case. Your Honor, David would soon tell the judge, what we're seeing is a coordinated campaign of harassment and intimidation. My client left an abusive situation, and now her abuser is mobilizing his entire social network to force her back into his control. But sitting there in the sterile courthouse corridor, another email caught my eye. This one from Mrs. Henderson, the elderly book club member. Dearest Olivia, we missed you at yesterday's meeting. The empty chair felt wrong without your thoughtful insights about Jane Austen's heroines. But you know what? You're living your own Austen novel right now, breaking free from society's expectations, choosing your own path despite the consequences. We're all rooting for you, dear. And when you're ready, your chair will be waiting. The tears that sprang to my eyes weren't from fear or shame this time. They were tears of gratitude, of recognition. I wasn't just Nathan's wife or Sophia's bankroll. I was Olivia, friend, book lover, dreamer, and I was reclaiming every piece of myself they'd tried to erase. Ms. Chen? The courthouse clerk called. Judge Warren will see you now. As we stood to enter the courtroom, Megan squeezed my hand. Remember, you're not asking for permission to exist without abuse. You're demanding your right to it. The heavy doors opened, and I straightened my spine. Behind those doors waited the next step in my journey to freedom. Nathan and his expensive lawyer would try to paint me as unstable, greedy, delusional. But the truth, documented in photographs, police reports, and a growing chain of harassing messages, would speak louder than their practiced lies. I touched the healing burns on my neck one last time. Every scar told a story, and today, finally, mine would be heard. Don't forget to like and share this video. Your support could help someone find the courage to take their first step toward freedom. Together, we can break the silence surrounding domestic abuse. The courthouse elevator hummed softly as we ascended to the 4th floor. My reflection in its polished doors showed someone I barely recognized, a woman standing straight. Despite her fears, wearing a simple dress that felt more authentic than any designer outfit Nathan had ever chosen for me. David stood beside me, reviewing his notes one last time, while Megan's steady presence anchored me to the moment. The elevator dinged, doors sliding open to reveal the family court waiting area. My heart stuttered. There, on a bench near the water fountain, sat Nathan and his lawyer. He wore his most expensive suit, the one reserved for impressing judges and CEOs. Our eyes met for a split second before I quickly looked away, but that brief glimpse showed me something new: uncertainty. For the first time in our marriage, he couldn't control the narrative. "Remember," David murmured as we took seats on the opposite side of the waiting area, "let me do the talking. Judge Warren has a strong record of recognizing patterns of abuse. The evidence speaks for itself." A young woman in a smart blazer approached our group. "I'm Amy Martinez from the Domestic Violence Advocacy Center," she introduced herself quietly. "The court appointed me to observe today's proceedings. I'll be taking notes to help document any concerning behavior." Nathan's carefully controlled expression flickered when he saw Amy join us. His lawyer leaned over, whispering something that made Nathan's jaw clench. They hadn't expected this level of scrutiny. The courtroom doors opened, and a clerk called our case number. Inside, the wood-paneled room felt both intimidating and oddly peaceful. Sunlight streamed through high windows, casting gentle shadows on the state seal behind the judge's bench. This room had heard countless stories like mine, I realized. These walls had witnessed thousands of moments of truth. Judge Warren, a silver-haired woman with kind eyes and an air of quiet authority, studied the papers before her. "We're here for an emergency protective order," she began, looking up at both parties. "I've reviewed the initial filing, including the police report and photographic evidence. Mr. Parker, you're represented by counsel. Mrs. Parker, you're represented by Mr. Thompson. Is that correct?" "Yes, Your Honor," both lawyers responded. "Very well. Mr. Thompson, please proceed." David stood, his voice clear and measured. "Your Honor, my client seeks protection following an escalating pattern of abuse that culminated in a violent assault 2 days ago. Mr. Parker threw hot food at my client, causing second-degree burns documented by medical professionals and law enforcement. This incident represents a dangerous escalation in a long-standing pattern of financial, emotional, and now physical abuse." Nathan's lawyer jumped up. "Objection, Your Honor. My client admits to a regrettable loss of temper during a heated discussion about family finances, but characterizing this as abuse is extreme. Mrs. Parker has been making unauthorized financial decisions, hiding money." "Counselor," Judge Warren interrupted, "are you suggesting that alleged financial impropriety justifies physical assault?" "No, Your Honor, but context is important. My client's sister needed medical assistance, and Mrs. Parker refused." "I have the sister's credit card statements here," David interjected, producing a folder. "The supposed medical emergency coincides with multiple charges at luxury hotels and high-end retailers in Las Vegas. This represents a pattern of financial manipulation that Mr. Parker and his sister have used to control my client." Judge Warren accepted the documents, studying them carefully. "Mrs. Parker," she said suddenly, looking directly at me, "would you please approach the bench?" My legs felt like lead as I walked forward. Nathan's presence behind me burned like a physical touch. "I've been doing this job for 23 years, Judge Warren said softly, for my ears only. "The hardest step is the one you've already taken, walking away. Are you afraid of your husband, Mrs. Parker?" The question hung in the air. In that moment, I thought of every morning spent walking on eggshells, every careful calculation to avoid his anger, every night spent lying awake, wondering what I'd done wrong. "Yes, Your Honor," I whispered. "I'm afraid of what he'll do now that he can't control me anymore." She nodded, understanding in her eyes. "Return to your seat, please." The next hour passed in a blur of legal terminology and evidence presentation. David methodically laid out the pattern of abuse: financial records showing Nathan's control of every penny, text messages proving his manipulation, emails from his family demonstrating their coordinated harassment campaign. Through it all, I felt Nathan's stare like a physical weight. "Your Honor," Nathan's lawyer argued, "my client is willing to attend anger management classes. He's already enrolled in—" "After the fact," David countered, "only after realizing the severity of the consequences. The pattern of control and abuse is clear, documented, and ongoing. Just this morning, Mr. Parker's sister accessed private emails to threaten my client about her business plans." Judge Warren's expression hardened. "Is this true, Mr. Parker? Did you or your sister access Mrs. Parker's private communications?" Nathan's silence spoke volumes. "I am granting the emergency protective order," Judge Warren announced. "Mr. Parker is to maintain a distance of at least 500 feet from Mrs. Parker, her residence, and her workplace. No contact through any means, physical, electronic, or through third parties. This order extends to Mr. Parker's sister and family members." Relief flooded through me, but Judge Warren wasn't finished. "Furthermore, I'm freezing the joint accounts pending a full hearing. Mrs. Parker shall have exclusive use of her personal accounts and any business assets in her name. Mr. Parker, be advised that any violation of this order will result in immediate arrest." Nathan's face had gone pale, his carefully constructed facade cracking. This wasn't how his story was supposed to end. His wife wasn't supposed to fight back. Outside the courtroom, Amy from the Advocacy Center handed me her card. "You're not alone in this," she said warmly. "We have support groups, counseling services, even financial planning assistance. When you're ready, we'd love to help you rebuild." Rebuild. The word echoed in my mind as we left the courthouse. Not just survive, not just escape, but rebuild. Create something new from the ashes of what Nathan had destroyed. "First step accomplished," David said as we reached Megan's car. "Now we focus on the divorce filing. Given today's testimony and evidence, we're in a strong position to—" A commotion near the courthouse steps interrupted him. Sophia, designer handbag swinging wildly, was rushing toward us. "How dare you!" she shrieked. "After everything we've done for you!" "That's close enough," Amy called out, stepping between us. "The protective order extends to you, Miss Parker. One more step and I call the police." Sophia froze, her face contorting with rage. "You think you can just walk away? We made you. You were nothing before Nathan?" "No," I said quietly, finding my voice. "You didn't make me. You tried to unmake me. There's a difference." Her mouth opened and closed, but for once, Sophia had no response. As court security approached, she turned and fled, her expensive heels clicking against the pavement. In Megan's car, the adrenaline finally wore off. My hands shook as I read through the protective order, pages of legal language that translated to one simple truth: I was free. Nathan couldn't come near me, couldn't contact me, couldn't send his flying monkeys to harass me. "What now?" I asked softly, watching Portland's familiar streets pass by. "Now," Megan replied, "you start living, really living, not just surviving." My phone buzzed, a text from Julia at the bookstore. Guess who just got a huge order? From Portland General's pediatric ward? We need a partner with fresh ideas more than ever. Your dream is still waiting when you're ready. I touched the healing burns on my neck, feeling not pain, but possibility. Nathan had thrown that breakfast at me thinking it would force my compliance. Instead, it had sparked my revolution. Share this video if you believe everyone deserves a life free from abuse. Your support can help others find their path to freedom. The bell above chapter and verses door chimed softly as I stepped inside. Early morning sunlight filtered through the storefront windows, casting warm patterns on the hardwood floors. Julia looked up from behind the counter, her face brightening at my arrival. Ready for your first official day as partner in training? She asked, sliding a fresh cup of coffee my way. Not the precisely measured, temperature-controlled brew Nathan had demanded, but a simple cup of local roast that smelled like possibility. The store was exactly as I remembered from my secret meetings with Julia. Cozy reading nooks tucked between towering shelves, handwritten staff recommendations pinned to wooden displays, and that indefinable scent of paper and promise that all good bookstores share. The pediatric ward order needs to be organized by age group, Julia explained, leading me to the back office. I thought you might want to handle that given your library experience. The office bore little resemblance to Nathan's sterile workspace. Postcards from independent bookstores around the world decorated one wall. A vintage reading lamp cast a warm glow over the desk. A hand-knitted throw draped over the extra chair. This will be your space too, Julia said softly. Once the partnership paperwork is finalized. I ran my fingers over the desk's worn surface, feeling the gentle dips and scratches that told stories of years of careful work. How different from Nathan's pristine glass and chrome furniture that had to be wiped spotless after every use. The morning passed in a peaceful blur of inventory lists and order forms. I lost myself in the familiar rhythm of organizing books, remembering my library days before Nathan convinced me that such work was beneath his wife's dignity. Each time the shop bell rang, I tensed slightly, but it was only customers. Mothers with young children, students looking for textbooks, elderly readers seeking recommendations. Around noon, Mrs. Henderson from the book club shuffled in, making a beeline for my desk. There you are, dear. We missed you at yesterday's meeting. Though I dare say you're living a far more interesting story than anything Jane Austen wrote. Her honest concern, so different from the manipulative worry of Nathan's social circle, brought unexpected tears to my eyes. I'm sorry I missed it. I've been fighting for your freedom, she finished firmly. No need to apologize for that. Now, tell me about this children's reading program you're planning. The hospital board is very interested. As I outlined my ideas for bringing authors and storytellers to the pediatric ward, I felt a spark of excitement I'd almost forgotten. Nathan had dismissed my passion for children's literacy as frivolous, but here was someone who understood its value. The shop bell chimed again. This time, my heart leaped to my throat. A man in an expensive suit entered, his bearing so similar to Nathan's that for a moment I couldn't breathe. But no, just a businessman on his lunch break, heading for the finance section. Mrs. Henderson noticed my reaction. The fear takes time to fade, she said gently. But it does fade. Trust an old woman who's been there. I looked at her in surprise. She'd never mentioned. 43 years ago, she continued, settling into the spare chair. Different time, different circumstances, but the same story. He didn't throw breakfast at me. He used his fists. Took me 3 tries to leave for good. Back then, there weren't restraining orders or support groups, just whispered judgments and pressure to work things out. Julia appeared with fresh coffee and cookies, creating a small oasis of comfort. In the quiet office, tell her about the book club, she prompted Mrs. Henderson. That's right. Several of us are domestic abuse survivors. We didn't plan it that way. Just found each other through our love of books. Started realizing how many of our favorite stories were really about women breaking free from society's cages. The idea bloomed in my mind suddenly. What if we created a formal support group, use literature as a way to process trauma, share experiences, combined with professional resources, Julia added excitedly. Amy from the Advocacy Center already mentioned wanting to partner with local businesses. The rest of the afternoon flew by in a flurry of planning. Between helping customers, I drafted proposals for the hospital program and the support group. Initiative. Each word typed felt like another brick in the foundation of my new life. Around 4, Megan stopped by with Emma and Lucas. The children immediately gravitated to the kids section, while Megan examined my workspace with approval. "It suits you," she said simply. "You look lighter here." Emma emerged clutching a picture book. "Can we get this one? It's about a butterfly coming out of its cocoon." The metaphor wasn't lost on any of the adults. I knelt down to examine her choice. "You know what? This one's on me. My first official sale as partner in training." Julia winked as she rang up the purchase. Partner in training discount applied. Later, as closing time approached, I sorted through the day's receipts with growing confidence. The numbers came easily, reminding me that I'd managed our household accounts for years, despite Nathan's claims that I couldn't handle finance. A shadow passed the storefront window, making me stiffen. But it was just a jogger, oblivious to the, momentary panic he'd caused. I forced myself to breathe deeply, remembering the grounding techniques Amy had taught me. "You'll get used to it," Julia said, beginning her closing routine. "The hypervigilance, the sudden fears, they're normal. But every day you prove to yourself that you can handle whatever comes through that door, they get a little weaker." As if to demonstrate her point, the bell chimed one final time. A teenage girl entered, looking nervous. "I'm sorry. I know you're closing, but..." She clutched a piece of paper. "I saw the flyer about the support group. My mom. She needs help, but she's scared." Julia and I exchanged glances. "We're always open for this," I said softly. "Come in. Let's talk." An hour later, the girl left with resource information, hotline numbers, and hope in her eyes. I watched her walk away, remembering my own fear and uncertainty just days ago. "Good work today," Julia said, handing me a set of shop keys. "See? You tomorrow?" I clutched the keys, feeling their weight, not just metal, but trust, responsibility, freedom. "See you tomorrow." The evening air was crisp as I walked to my car. Portland's streets felt different now, full of possibility. Rather than restriction, my phone showed 3 missed calls from unknown numbers, likely Nathan or Sophia using different phones, but they held no power over me here. In the distance, I could see the lights of Portland General Hospital, where tomorrow I'd present our reading program proposal. The burns on my neck had faded to barely visible marks, but their lesson remained. Sometimes it takes a moment of intense pain to catalyze profound change. Share this video to spread hope. Every person deserves the chance to write their own story. Morning fog clung to Portland streets as I reviewed the final divorce papers in David's office. Each page represented another step toward freedom, but also another potential battle. Nathan's response to the initial filing had been predictably aggressive. Demands for financial records, accusations of mental instability, thinly veiled threats wrapped in legal language. "The mediation session is scheduled for tomorrow," David reminded me, sliding a fresh cup of tea across his desk. "Nathan and his lawyer will be there. Are you sure you're ready for this?" The ceramic mug warmed my hands as I considered his question. Through the office window, I could see the courthouse where I'd gotten the restraining order. It felt like years ago, though only weeks had passed. "He'll try to manipulate me," I said slowly. "Use every weakness he knows against me. But I'm not the same person he married anymore." Amy from the Advocacy Center sat beside me, her presence a steady reminder of the support system I'd built. "Remember what we practiced," she said. "You don't have to respond to emotional bait. Everything goes through David." A notification lit up my phone, an email from Portland General Hospital confirming the success of our first children's reading program. The photo attached showed smiling faces of young patients gathered around Julia as she read from a colorful picture book. Another tiny victory in my growing collection. "Nathan's lawyer reached out this morning," David mentioned, his tone carefully neutral. "They're pushing for a mental health evaluation before proceeding with asset division, claiming your sudden personality change and paranoid accusations indicate instability." I almost laughed. Sudden personality change? I'm finally being myself instead of the puppet he created. That's not instability. It's awakening. Still, Nathan's tactics were having an effect. Last night, I'd dreamed of that morning again. The scalding eggs, his rage, the shattering of more than just a plate. I'd woken in Megan's guest room drenched in sweat, the phantom smell of hollandaise sauce making me nauseous. About the evaluation, Amy interjected. We could use it to our advantage. Dr. Rivera at the Women's Clinic specializes in domestic abuse cases. An independent assessment would actually strengthen your position. The fog outside was beginning to lift, revealing the city below. Somewhere out there, Nathan was probably sitting in his own lawyer's office, plotting his next move. The thought no longer paralyzed me with fear. What else should I expect tomorrow? I asked, turning back to David. He'll likely focus on finances first. The joint accounts, your secret savings, the bookstore investment. They'll try to paint you as deceptive, untrustworthy. Then they'll move to character assassination, your mental state, your relationships, your capability to make decisions. My hands tightened around the mug. And Sophia? The restraining order covers her too, but she submitted a written statement. It's creative in its interpretation of events. I could imagine. Sophia had always excelled at twisting reality to suit her needs. Now she'd turned that talent toward destroying me, probably enjoying every moment of it. A knock at the door interrupted our discussion. David's assistant entered with a thick envelope. This just arrived from Mr. Parker's attorneys. More demands, more accusations, more attempts to wear me down. But as David reviewed the documents, his eyebrows rose. Well, this is interesting. They're offering a settlement. My heart skipped. What kind of settlement? They'll drop the mental health claims and agree to an expedited divorce if you sign over your interest in the house, and agree to never publicly discuss the marriage or its end. The pieces clicked into place. Nathan's company is up for a merger. I realized. He can't risk this getting messy. It would damage his perfect image. Exactly, David confirmed. This is actually good news. It means he's worried. We can use that. Amy leaned forward. But remember, you don't have to decide anything today. Take time to process, to consider your options. Time. Such a simple concept, yet Nathan had controlled even that during our marriage. Every minute scheduled, every decision rushed to serve his convenience. Not anymore. I want to counter, I said firmly. Keep my half of the house value, maintain my right to tell my story, and add a clause preventing both Nathan and Sophia from any future contact, direct or indirect. David's smile was approving. Now you're thinking like someone who knows their worth. The rest of the morning passed in preparation. We reviewed mediation strategies, practiced responses to likely provocations, strengthened our documentation. Each piece of evidence told part of the story. Bank statements showing financial control, medical records of my burns, the pattern of harassment through multiple phone numbers and email accounts. Around noon, Megan arrived with lunch from Morning Brew, simple sandwiches that tasted like freedom. Julia sends her support, she said. The bookstore's women's group is meeting tonight. They're all thinking of you. That group had become an unexpected source of strength. Women from all walks of life, sharing their stories of survival, offering wisdom and understanding that no therapy session could match. Many had faced their own mediation sessions, their own battles for freedom. Mrs. Henderson said something interesting last night, I mentioned, unwrapping my sandwich. She said abusers are like mirrors in a funhouse. They reflect back a distorted version of reality until you forget what truth looks like. But each time you step away, the real image becomes clearer. She's right, Amy agreed. That's why tomorrow is so important. Nathan will try to pull you back into his distorted reality. Your job is to stay anchored in truth. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Despite the blocks, despite the restraining order, Sophia was still trying to reach me. You're making a huge mistake. Nathan's willing to be generous. Now, but if you push this... I handed the phone to David without reading further. Another piece of evidence, another attempt at manipulation that would fail. We should review your outfit for tomorrow, Amy suggested. Sounds trivial, but presentation matters in mediation. Nothing Nathan bought me, I said immediately. I want to look professional but authentic. No more costumes. The afternoon sun broke through the last wisps of fog, illuminating the city in golden light. Tomorrow would bring challenges, confrontations, attempts to break my resolve. But as I sat there surrounded by my support team, I felt ready. One last thing, David said as our meeting wound down. Remember why you're doing this, not just for yourself, but for every person trapped in their own funhouse mirror reality. Your strength might inspire someone else's escape. I touched the nearly healed burns on my neck, my reminder, my motivation, my battle scar. Nathan thought throwing that breakfast would shatter me. Instead, it had forged me into something stronger. The prosecutor had called yesterday, confirming criminal charges were being filed for the assault. Another battle looming, another chance to speak truth to power. But for now, I focused on tomorrow's mediation. One step at a time, one truth at a time, one victory at a time. Like and share this video to show support for those fighting their way to freedom. Sometimes the hardest battles are the ones that lead to the greatest transformations. The mediation room felt smaller than I expected. Pale morning light filtered through Venetian blinds, casting striped shadows across the conference table. I sat between David and Amy, my back straight, hands folded calmly in my lap, a posture of strength I'd practiced in front of Megan's mirror. When Nathan entered with his lawyer, the air seemed to thicken. He wore his power suit, the one reserved for million-dollar negotiations. Our eyes met briefly, and I saw the flicker of surprise cross his face. He'd expected to find me diminished, cowering. Instead, I met his gaze steadily, unflinching. Before we begin, the mediator started, I want to remind everyone that this is a confidential process. We're here to reach an equitable resolution without the need for lengthy court proceedings. Nathan's lawyer spoke first, his voice oily, with false concern. My client is deeply worried about his wife's mental state. These baseless accusations, this erratic behavior. Objection. David cut in smoothly. We're not in court, and attempts to malign my client's mental health constitute continuing harassment. We have documentation of the assault, the financial abuse, and the ongoing pattern of control. I watched Nathan's jaw clench, a telltale sign of rising anger I knew too well. But here, in this neutral space, his rage held no power over me. Mrs. Parker, the mediator addressed me directly. Would you like to make an opening statement? I took a measured breath, remembering Amy's coaching. 7 years ago, I married a man I thought I knew. Over time, that man systematically stripped away my independence, my identity, and my sense of self-worth. He controlled our finances, isolated me from friends and family, and used his sister as a weapon to drain our resources. Nathan shifted in his chair, his practiced facade cracking slightly. 2 weeks ago, he threw scalding food at me because I refused to give his sister more money. That moment of violence wasn't an aberration. It was the culmination of years of escalating abuse. I'm not here to punish Nathan. I'm here to reclaim my life. The mediator nodded thoughtfully. Mr. Parker, would you like to respond? Olivia, Nathan began, using the soft, reasonable tone that once made me doubt my own perceptions. You're clearly under enormous stress. The pressures of managing our household, supporting family obligations. Perhaps it all became too much. But this elaborate narrative of abuse? These accusations against Sophia? This isn't you speaking. That's where you're wrong, I replied calmly. This is exactly me speaking, for the first time in years. His lawyer produced a folder. We have evidence of Mrs. Parker's secretive financial dealings, hidden accounts, unauthorized business, ventures. You mean the money I saved from grocery shopping? The coins I collected from couch cushions? The dream of owning a bookstore that you mocked and dismissed? My voice remained steady, even as I felt Amy's supportive touch on my arm. Tell me, Nathan, how much has Sophia spent on designer handbags this month alone? Color rose in his cheeks. My sister's expenses are not relevant to these proceedings. Actually, David interjected, they're highly relevant. We have documentation of systematic financial abuse, including coerced transfers and misrepresented emergencies. The mediator reviewed the financial records spread before her. These bank statements show concerning patterns. Mr. Parker, can you explain why your sister received over $50,000 in emergency transfers last year alone? Nathan's lawyer leaned in to whisper something, but Nathan waved him off. Family takes care of family. Olivia never understood that concept coming from her limited background. The old jab about my lack of siblings might once have stung. Now it just revealed his desperation. Speaking of family, I said, quietly, did you tell the mediator about the trust fund my parents left me? The one you convinced me to sign over for better management? A muscle twitched in Nathan's cheek. He hadn't expected me to mention that. The morning progressed in a dance of accusations and evidence. Nathan's lawyer tried to paint me as unstable, ungrateful, financially irresponsible. Each attack felt like a wave breaking against a stone wall. I remained unmoved. During a brief recess, I stepped into the hallway for air. Through the window, I could see the bookstore's sign several blocks away. Just knowing it was there, that my dreams were taking shape despite Nathan's attempts to crush them, gave me strength. Quite a performance in there, Nathan's voice came from behind me. I turned to find him standing too close, using his height to intimidate. But we both know the truth, don't we? You're nothing without me. Who's going to want you now? Amy appeared instantly. Step back, Mr. Parker. The restraining order is still in effect. He retreated, but his smirk remained. Just having a friendly conversation with my wife. Soon-to-be ex-wife, I corrected. And I'm worth more than you ever let me believe. Back in the mediation room, Nathan's lawyer presented their settlement offer. The terms were designed to silence me, to erase the truth of what happened in exchange for a quick resolution. My client is prepared to be generous, the lawyer emphasized. Full ownership of your personal accounts, a reasonable settlement sum. All we ask is discretion and the house. I looked at the papers, then at Nathan. He sat there radiating smug confidence, certain I would fold as I always had before. The house meant everything to him, a symbol of his success, his control, his perfect life. No, I said simply. No? Nathan's voice rose slightly. Be reasonable, Olivia. Think about your future. I am thinking about my future, one where I'm free to speak my truth, to help other women recognize abuse before it escalates to violence. One where I don't have to pretend the scars you gave me don't exist. Those burns were an accident. You provoked me. The mask had slipped. In his anger, Nathan had revealed his true nature in front of the mediator, his lawyer, everyone. Nothing you say can change what happened, I continued calmly. You threw hot food at me because I refused to finance your sister's lies. You tried to destroy me because I finally said no. But here's what you don't understand, Nathan. I'm not asking for permission to leave. I'm telling you, I'm gone. The mediator cleared her throat. Perhaps we should take another break. No need, I said. I have a counteroffer. Equal division of all marital assets, including the house value. No confidentiality agreement. No contact from either you or Sophia ever again. Those are my terms. Nathan's lawyer started to object, but Nathan held up his hand. Something in his expression had changed. He finally realized he'd lost control of the narrative. "You'll regret this," he said softly. "When the money runs out, when your little bookstore fails, when reality hits." "Reality already hit," I interrupted. "It hit me in the face along with breakfast that morning, and I've never seen more clearly." The rest of the mediation passed in a blur of legal terms and negotiations. By afternoon, we had a preliminary agreement. Not perfect, but fair. And most importantly, it preserved my right to tell my story. As we gathered our things to leave, Nathan made one last attempt. "Olivia," he called out. "Was any of it real? Did you ever really love me?" I paused at the door, considering. "I loved who I thought you were, but that person never existed, did he?" Outside, the Portland air had never felt sweeter. Amy hugged me tight, while David smiled approvingly. "You did wonderfully," he said. "Ready for the next steps?" I looked up at the clear sky, feeling truly free for the first time in years. More than ready. Remember to like and share this video. Your support helps others find the courage to stand up to abuse and reclaim their lives. The police escort waited patiently as I unlocked the front door of what had once been my prison. Everything looked exactly as I'd left it that morning. The broken plate still scattered across the kitchen floor, coffee stains marking the walls like abstract art. Nathan hadn't bothered to clean up the evidence of his violence. "Take whatever you need," Officer Chen advised, "but be quick about it. Sometimes these situations can escalate rapidly." Megan followed close behind as I moved through the house, her presence grounding me in reality. The home that had once seemed so perfect now felt like a museum of manipulation. Every pristine surface, every carefully chosen piece of furniture, told a story of control. In the master bedroom, I faced the walk-in closet Nathan had always called my sanctuary. Designer. Clothes hung in perfect color coordination, each item selected to meet his exacting standards. I bypassed them all, reaching instead for the back corner where I'd hidden my real treasures. "Found it," I whispered, pulling out an old shoebox. Inside lay the things Nathan hadn't been able to take from me. My mother's handwritten recipes, my father's last birthday card, photographs from before the marriage had stripped away my smile. Megan helped me pack quickly, focusing on essentials and irreplaceable items. In my home office, I collected important documents from their hiding places, copies of bank statements, medical records, the journal where I documented years of abuse. "Olivia," Megan called softly from the hallway. "Come look at this." She stood before the gallery wall of our marriage, dozens of perfectly staged photos showing the life Nathan had manufactured. Us at charity galas, vacation shots in exotic locations, family portraits with Sophia. In every image, I wore the same careful smile, my eyes gradually losing their light over the years. "I never noticed before," I murmured, "how he always positioned himself above me in these photos, always looking down, always in control." A noise from outside made us all freeze. Officer Chen moved quickly to the window, then relaxed. Just the neighbor's car. In the kitchen, I paused to survey the scene of that final confrontation. The morning light caught the dried eggs still, clinging to the cabinet doors, the coffee stains marking my escape route. Something compelled me to take a photo. Evidence, yes, but also a reminder of the moment everything changed. "Your plants," Megan remembered suddenly. "The ones you grew from your grandmother's seeds." We carefully wrapped the small herb, garden I'd maintained in secret, each plant a tiny act of rebellion against Nathan's sterile aesthetic. Rosemary for remembrance, sage for wisdom, lavender for peace. My grandmother's voice echoed in my memory, teaching me their meanings. In Nathan's home office, Officer Chen kept watch while I retrieved one final item, the external hard drive where I'd backed up evidence of financial transactions. As I unplugged it, my eyes fell on a framed photo I'd never noticed before. Nathan and Sophia as children, her hand possessively gripping his arm, both smiling at the camera with eerily similar expressions. "That explains so much," Megan commented, looking at the photo. "They've been reinforcing each other's behavior their whole lives." A car door slammed in the driveway. Officer Chen's radio crackled to life. Suspect vehicle approaching the residence. My heart raced, but my hands remained steady as I gathered the last of my belongings. Through the window, I could see Nathan's black Audi pulling up, Sophia in the passenger seat. They hadn't expected me to come back with police protection. "Time. To go," Officer Chen urged. "We'll exit through the back door." As we slipped out through the garden gate, I heard Nathan's voice raised in anger, demanding to know why there were police cars in his driveway. Sophia's shrill complaints joined. Their combined outrage following us like poisonous smoke. In Megan's car, I finally allowed myself to breathe. The box of memories sat safely in my lap, my grandmother's plants secured in the back seat. Everything else was just stuff, replaceable items that had never really belonged to me anyway. "Where to?" Megan asked, carefully pulling away from the curb. "The bookstore," I decided. "I need to be somewhere that feels like me." Julia was waiting when we arrived, concern etched on her face. "I saw Nathan's car heading toward your house. Are you okay?" The morning sun streamed through the bookstore windows, illuminating dust motes that danced like tiny stars. Here, surrounded by stories of other people's journeys, I felt my racing heart begin to slow. I'm better than okay, I realized. I'm free. We set up my grandmother's plants in the store's bay window, a splash of life and color among the carefully arranged books. Julia immediately printed small signs identifying each herb and its traditional meanings, creating an impromptu educational display. "The children's reading group will love learning about these," she said, adjusting the rosemary's position to catch more light. "Speaking of which, the hospital called. They want to expand the program to twice weekly." My phone buzzed, another unknown number. But instead of Nathan or Sophia's usual threats, this message was different. "Saw you leaving the house with police. If you need someone to talk to, I understand." Sarah, Nathan's first wife. The name hit me like a physical shock. Nathan had always claimed his first marriage ended because Sarah was unstable, unable to handle the pressures of his success. How many other lies had I believed? "Look at this," I showed Megan the message. All this time, there was someone else who understood. "Maybe that's your next project," she suggested. Creating connections between survivors, breaking the isolation that keeps so many trapped. The rest of the day passed in a gentle rhythm of small tasks. I helped customers find books, arranged displays, and began sketching plans for a support group lending library. Each moment felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. Late afternoon brought Amy from the Advocacy Center, carrying files and a determined expression. "The prosecutor wants to move forward with criminal charges," she announced. "Your documentation made the difference." I thought about the evidence collected over years, receipts, photos, journal entries. Each small record had seemed pointless at the time, but together they told an undeniable story of abuse. "Nathan will fight it," I said, but without fear. "He'll try to discredit me, paint himself as the victim." "Let him try," Amy replied firmly. "Truth has a way of revealing itself." As closing time approached, Mrs. Henderson appeared with her book club friends. They came bearing gifts, not expensive trinkets like Nathan's family had given, but meaningful treasures. A handmade quilt for my new apartment, dog-eared copies of beloved books, a journal with an inscription that made me cry. "For your next chapter." "We have something else for you," Mrs. Henderson said softly. Something we've been working on since you left. She handed me a leather-bound notebook. Inside, in different handwriting styles, were stories. Stories of survival, of escape, of rebuilding. Stories from women who had faced their own versions of Nathan and lived to tell about it. "Your turn to add your story," she said, "when you're ready." That evening, after the store closed, I sat at my new desk surrounded by the gentle presence of books and herbs. The blank page before me no longer seemed intimidating. I picked up my pen and began to write. It started with breakfast, but it didn't end there. Like and share this video if you believe in the power of telling your truth. Together, we can help others find their way to freedom. Autumn painted Portland streets in shades of gold and crimson as I unlocked the door to my new apartment. The space was small, nothing like the mansion Nathan had insisted we needed, but every corner held meaning. Mismatched furniture from thrift stores, walls adorned with local artists' work, bookshelves overflowing with volumes I'd always wanted to read, but Nathan had deemed frivolous. The morning therapy session with Dr. Rivera had been intense. We'd discussed the nightmares that still sometimes jolted me awake, phantom sensations of hot food striking my skin. But today, we'd also celebrated progress. 3 months free from Nathan's control, 3 months of rebuilding. Processing trauma isn't linear, she'd reminded me. Some days will feel like steps backward, but look how far you've come. My phone chimed with a message from Sarah, Nathan's first wife. Over the past months, we'd formed an unexpected alliance. Her story mirrored mine in ways that made my skin crawl. The same patterns of control, the same financial manipulation, even the same demands from Sophia. "Meeting at Morning Brew in an hour?" she'd written. "Have some news to share." The cafe had become our safe space, neutral ground where we could speak freely. Today, strings of fairy lights twinkled in the windows, creating warm pools of light against the gray October sky. Sarah waited at our usual corner table, 2 steaming mugs already in place. "The prosecutor called," she said as I settled into my seat. "They want me to testify about the pattern of abuse. Apparently, Nathan's lawyer is trying to paint your case as an isolated incident." I wrapped my hands around the warm mug, breathing in the scent of cinnamon and nutmeg. No more precisely measured coffee temperatures, no more rigid routines. "Are you ready for that? Going public with your story?" Sarah's eyes held a mixture of fear and determination. "I've been silent for too long. Maybe if I'd spoken up years ago, he wouldn't have had the chance to hurt you." "That's not your fault," I said firmly. "The only person responsible for Nathan's actions is Nathan." A young woman at the next table glanced our way, then quickly looked down at her phone. I recognized the telltale signs, the furtive movements, the careful positioning to hide her screen from view. 3 months ago, that had been me. Sarah noticed, too. Quietly, she pulled a business card from her purse and placed it on the young woman's table as we left. "When you're ready," she said softly. The card listed the Advocacy Center's hotline number. Back at Chapter and Verse, Julia was training new volunteers for our growing support programs. The bookstore had transformed, not just physically with its new reading nooks and resource center, but spiritually. It had become a sanctuary for others seeking escape from their own versions of Nathan. "The hospital called again," Julia announced, as I hung up my coat. "The pediatric ward wants to expand the reading program to include art therapy. They think storytelling could help children process their experiences in families affected by domestic violence." My heart squeezed. How many children grew up watching one parent diminish the other? How many learned that love meant control? That family meant sacrifice of self? The afternoon brought our weekly support group meeting. Women gathered in the bookstore's back room, sharing stories over tea and cookies. Some faces were familiar now, others new and uncertain. Each story unique, yet connected by common threads of survival. I didn't think I could start over at 50, one woman confided. My husband controlled everything for 30 years. But seeing you rebuild your life, it gave me hope. Mrs. Henderson arrived with her latest contribution to our lending library. Books carefully chosen to support. Healing. Found this one at a yard sale, she said, handing me a worn copy of The Yellow Wallpaper. Thought it might resonate. As I flipped through the pages, a pressed flower fell out. Lavender, like the ones my grandmother had grown. The previous owner had marked passages about a woman finding her voice, reclaiming her sanity from those who tried to define it for her. The store phone rang. Portland General Hospital. A young patient had requested a specific book for our next reading session, The Paper Bag Princess, a story about a girl who saves herself. Julia smiled as she added it to our list. Remember when you thought the bookstore dream was impossible? She asked. Now look, we're not just selling books, we're changing lives. Evening brought a different kind of healing. Emma and Lucas had insisted on cooking dinner for Aunt Olivia, resulting in slightly burnt cookies and imperfectly shaped pasta. Nothing like the elaborate meals Nathan had demanded, but filled with more love than all those perfect dinners combined. I made this for you, Emma declared, presenting a crayon drawing. It's you as a superhero, saving other people from mean dragons. The simple artwork brought tears to my eyes. In her childish wisdom, Emma had captured something profound. Sometimes the biggest dragons wear business suits and hide behind family obligations. After dinner, Megan helped me arrange furniture in my new apartment. Each piece represented a choice made freely, without Nathan's criticism or Sophia's demands. The old quilt from the book club ladies draped perfectly across my thrift store couch. My grandmother's herbs thrived on the windowsill, their scent a constant reminder of resilience. Look what I found while unpacking, Megan said, holding up a dusty notebook. My first attempt at writing started secretly during my marriage, but abandoned when Nathan mocked my literary aspirations. Maybe it's time to start again, she suggested. Your story could help others find their voice. A text message interrupted the moment. Another unknown number. My heart jumped before I recognized the pattern. Sophia, using yet another friend's phone to bypass blocks. Mom's in the hospital. Nathan's devastated. Don't you care about family anymore? Once, that message would have sent me spiraling into guilt and self-doubt. Now, I simply forwarded it to David and blocked the number. My newfound peace was not negotiable. Later, alone in my apartment, I opened the notebook Megan had found. The pages held fragments of stories, dreams I'd been afraid to pursue. On a fresh page, I began to write. Recovery isn't just about healing from obvious wounds. It's about rediscovering the person you were meant to be before someone tried to reshape you into their image of perfection. A gentle autumn rain tapped against my windows, nature's applause for my small acts of courage. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, court appearances, therapy sessions, support group meetings. But tonight, surrounded by symbols of my rebuilding, mismatched furniture, healing plants, unfinished stories, I felt at peace. Like and share this video to remind someone that healing is possible, that their story matters, that freedom awaits on the other side of fear. Early winter sunlight danced across the fresh paint of my newly renovated studio apartment. The space bore no resemblance to the stark, modern aesthetic Nathan had demanded in our old house. Instead, warm colors and personal touches filled every corner. A hand-woven tapestry from a local artist, shelves lined with well-loved books, and photographs capturing genuine smiles with my chosen family. The morning paper lay open on my vintage coffee table, a small article catching my eye. Local bookstore expands community outreach. The piece detailed chapter and verse's transformation into a sanctuary for domestic abuse survivors complete, with quotes from women whose lives had changed within its walls. My name wasn't mentioned. I'd chosen to remain anonymous, but my fingerprints were all over the story. A knock at the door made me smile. Julia stood there holding a box of fresh pastries from the bakery down the street. Ready for the big day? The contractors finished the expansion last night. The bookstore's success had exceeded our wildest dreams. What started as a small partnership had grown into a thriving community hub, forcing us to take over the vacant space next door. Today marked the grand opening of our new wing, dedicated entirely to healing through literature and art. The PAO hospital called, Julia continued as we walked through crisp morning air. They want to feature our reading program in their quarterly newsletter. Apparently, the children's recovery rates have improved significantly since we started. Portland's streets felt different now, alive with possibility rather than threat. Each corner held memories of small victories. The cafe where I'd first met Sarah, the park where our support group sometimes gathered on sunny days, the courthouse where I'd finally found my voice. The bookstore's new space took my breath away. Soft lighting illuminated comfortable reading nooks, each designed to feel like a safe embrace. Resource materials shared shelves with carefully curated fiction and poetry. A dedicated children's area featured a hand-painted mural of butterflies emerging from chrysalises. Mrs. Henderson's idea, Julia explained, gesturing to the mural. She said transformation deserves to be beautiful. The morning brought a steady stream of visitors. Women from our support group proudly showed newcomers around, their own healing, evident in the way they carried themselves. Each had a story similar to mine. Moments when scalding food or harsh words or controlling demands had finally broken the spell of abuse. Sarah arrived with fresh flowers for the reading room. "Look what else I brought," she said, pulling out a manila envelope. "The prosecutor's office just released these since the case is closed." Inside were photographs from that morning in Tapi'i, the kitchen. Evidence I hadn't seen since giving my statement to police. The images showed dried egg on walls, broken ceramic on floor, coffee stains marking my escape route. But instead of triggering panic, they felt like looking at scenes from someone else's life. "I almost didn't recognize myself," Sarah mused, studying the photos. Both literally and figuratively. We were different people then. A young woman hovering near the self-help section caught my attention. Her oversized sweater, despite the heated room, the way she kept checking her phone, I recognized the signs. Quietly, I approached. "The poetry section is lovely this time of day," I said softly. "Especially Maya Angelou's work. Still I Rise helped me through some dark times." She looked up, startled, then relaxed slightly at whatever she saw in my face. "My husband says poetry is a waste of time," she whispered. "Mine did too," replied. "But here's the thing about poetry. It reminds us that our voices matter." Later, during the official opening ceremony, I watched that same woman slip a domestic violence hotline card into her purse. One more seed of hope planted, one more possibility of escape taking root. The day brought unexpected visitors. Amy, from the Advocacy Center, arrived with news about our latest initiative, a scholarship program for survivors seeking education or job training. The hospital's pediatric ward sent representatives to discuss expanding our programs. Even Officer Chen stopped by, now a regular supporter of our cause. "Got another domestic call this morning," she confided during a quiet moment. "Showed her your bookstore's card. Sometimes people need to see that survival is possible before they can believe in their own strength." As evening approached, our core group gathered in the new reading room. Mrs. Henderson brought her famous lavender cookies. Megan's kids sprawled on floor cushions, Emma proudly showing everyone the story she'd written about a brave princess who saved herself. Sarah shared updates about her advocacy work with the prosecutor's office. "I've been thinking," Julia said, setting down her tea. "We should write a book. Not just about survival, but about transformation. About how throwing breakfast at someone can actually set them free." The idea resonated. How many others might recognize their own stories in mine? How many might find courage in knowing they weren't alone? My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. But instead of Nathan or Sophia's usual manipulation, it was a message of hope. I left today. Your story gave me courage. Thank you. Looking around at my chosen family, Julia with her business acumen and infinite patience, Megan with her unwavering support, Sarah with her hard-won wisdom, Mrs. Henderson with her quiet strength, I felt overwhelming gratitude. Each had played a crucial role in my journey from victim to survivor to advocate. The setting sun painted the bookstore windows in shades of amber and rose. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new stories, new opportunities to help others find their way to freedom. But tonight, surrounded by books and friends and the sweet scent of success, I was exactly where I needed to be. Later in my apartment, I opened my laptop to find an email from Nathan's mother. Once, her words would have cut deep. Now they seemed small, irrelevant to the life I'd built. On my windowsill, my grandmother's herbs still thrived. Rosemary, for remembrance, sage for wisdom, lavender for peace. Their presence reminded me daily that growth is possible even in unlikely places. My memoir sat half-finished on my desk, each chapter a step further from the woman who once measured her worth by her husband's approval. The working title made me smile. At breakfast, my husband dumped a plate of food on me and set me free. Help spread awareness by liking and sharing this video. Someone out there needs to know they're not alone, that freedom is possible, that their story matters. Spring blossoms decorated Portland's streets, marking 1 year since that fateful breakfast. I stood at the podium in Portland General Hospital's conference room, facing a packed audience of medical professionals, social workers, and survivors. My memoir had just hit the bestseller list, not for its literary merit, but for its raw truth about domestic abuse and transformation. When he threw that plate of food at me, I began, he thought he was punishing my defiance. Instead, he gave me the wake-up call I needed. Sometimes our lowest moments become our greatest catalysts for change. The room held a special energy. Doctors who'd treated similar injuries, nurses who'd recognized the signs, survivors who'd found their own paths to freedom. In the front row, Emma clutched her latest story, illustrated with careful crayon drawings of women helping other women find their strength. Our bookstore initiative had expanded beyond Portland, with similar programs sprouting in cities across the country. Julia managed the original location while I traveled, sharing our model of healing through literature and community support. Sarah had become a powerful advocate in the legal system, her testimony helping countless other women navigate their own battles for freedom. The prosecutor's office now had a dedicated team handling domestic abuse cases, with Sarah as their chief consultant. After my speech, a young resident approached, tears in her eyes. "I treated a woman this morning," she whispered. "Burns from hot coffee. She claimed it was an accident, but I recognized the pattern. I gave her your book." Outside the hospital, cherry blossoms danced on the breeze, nature's celebration of renewal and growth. My phone chimed with a message from Mrs. Henderson. Another survivor had joined our reading group, brought in by a friend who'd recognized her own past in my story. The afternoon found me back at Chapter and Verse, now a bustling center of healing and hope. The children's section hummed with young voices as Officer Chen's daughter led a writing workshop for kids from the shelter. "Everyone has a story," she told them, "and every story matters." Our support group had outgrown the reading room, spreading into community centers across the city. Today's session focused on financial independence, with experts teaching skills Nathan had deliberately kept from me. Women learned to manage accounts, build credit, and recognize signs of financial abuse. As I arranged books for tomorrow's hospital visit, a familiar figure caught my eye. The young woman from last year's opening, the one who'd hidden behind oversized sweaters. She stood taller now, helping a newcomer find resources on rebuilding after abuse. "Your story saved my life," she said simply when our eyes met. I kept thinking, if she could leave after 7 years, I could leave after 5. The day brought a steady stream of similar moments. Women finding strength in shared experiences. Children learning healthy relationship patterns. Professionals gaining tools to identify and address abuse. Each interaction reinforced the truth that had emerged from my own journey. Healing multiplies when shared. Late afternoon sunlight filtered through stained glass panels we'd installed in the reading room, casting rainbow patterns across gathered survivors. Some were just beginning their journeys, others celebrating milestones of recovery. All had found sanctuary within these walls. My phone remained quiet. Nathan and Sophia's attempts at contact had finally ceased after the book's publication. Their power over me had dissolved like morning mist, replaced by the strength of authentic connections and genuine support. Evening brought a small celebration. One of our regulars had found her dream job. Another had signed a lease on her first solo apartment. We shared tea and Mrs. Henderson's cookies, marking each victory as our own because that's what real family does. Later, in my apartment above the bookstore, I looked out over Portland's twinkling lights. The city that had witnessed my escape now watched me thrive. My grandmother's herbs still flourished on the windowsill, joined by new growth. Gifts from survivors starting their own gardens of healing. A manuscript lay open on my desk, the next book focused on helping others recognize and escape abuse. Beside it sat letters from readers around the world, each sharing their own moments of awakening. Some sparked by thrown food, others by harsh words or controlling demands, all leading to freedom. Tomorrow would bring new stories, new challenges, new opportunities to help others find their strength. But tonight, I sat in peaceful solitude, grateful for every step of my journey, even the painful ones that led me here. Thank you for watching my story. If you're living in fear, know that you deserve better. If you've found freedom, know that your story could light the way for others. We rise by lifting each other. Up next, you've got 2 more powerful stories of transformation waiting for you. If my journey resonated with you, these tales of courage and resilience will touch your heart. Just click to continue the journey of hope and healing.